Hello, my name is Melinda Hollyfield, and today we're going to be going over isolating the seventh art, or how to read a film. Films use narrative and cinematic style to create contextual meaning. This is broken up into three parts: narrative, cinematic style, which is mise en scène, cinematography, editing, and sound, and then how those combine to create contextual analysis. Film is known as the seventh art. This brings up a question. What are the other six? The other six are architecture, sculpting, painting, music, poetry, both written and performed, and dance. This is coined by Ricciardo Canuto and the birth of the sixth art in 1911. He initially did not include dance, and a few years later, after 1911, he ended up including dance as well. Thus, film is the seventh art. Film incorporates all of these arts and adds what? Editing. So film has a foundation in all previously mentioned arts. However, unlike other art forms, film allows for the manipulation of time. So who can define what a film is? According to Bordwell and Thompson from Film Art and Introduction, film is a succession of projected images and amplified sound that communicates ideas and evokes emotion. So let's break this apart with the seven arts in mind through a process we call formalist analysis. This means that we will look at both the elements of narrative and cinematic style to figure out how a film makes meaning. So narrative, this is the character constellation, setting, narration, plot. We must be able to break this down for the story as viewers and also as creators. There's no better example of this than the Avengers. So under the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we have hundreds of characters. We have hundreds of storylines. We have movies, we have shows, and all of this is a part of narrative. So it's how all of the characters are related to each other, the settings, the plot. And then we have mise en scène. So this is the what of the shot. This is going to be compared to architecture, sculpting, painting, poetry, and dance. So the elements of this are sets, costume and makeup, figure expression and movement, props, and lighting design external. So we can see here on Wes Craven's The Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984, you can see the prop of his glove and then the lighting in the background. In Mood for Love from 2000, you can see the lighting and the bars in the lighting to show that they're trapped and how they're looking different directions, and it adds meaning to the movie. And then we have cinematography, which is the how of the shot. This can be compared to painting. So that's camera angles, distance, focus, framing, movement, and lighting internal. So that's more like exposure time as opposed to additional lighting. And then we have editing. So this is making meaning through comparison while manipulating time or sculpting time. So we can do graphic comparison and contrast, matching action, cross-cutting, emotional manipulation. So for example, the scene in Alien on the screen here, you can see Ripley falling asleep and it's slowly turning into the earth. This brought meaning into that particular scene in Alien. And then also we have transitions. This is a very famous transition here from Silence of the Lambs. So we see Clarice Starling, and then we think she is going to raid this house with the FBI meeting up there. And through this transition, we realize that she is actually alone facing Buffalo Bill. It's a very intense scene. And then we have sound, which is amplified audio components of a film. This is compared to music and poetry. So we have the volume, pitch, timbre, and then dialogue. So there's also physical dialogue, like body language, and then spoken dialogue. And then we also have music, diegetic and non-diegetic. Diegetic is when the music is in the film. So say a character is playing on the radio. And then also non-diegetic. A good example of non-diegetic is the movie Halloween. So when Halloween was initially made for the test audience, there was not additional music, and people thought it was boring. So then you add in that classic horror movie soundtrack, and it gets very tense. So that is a great use of non-diegetic sound. And then we have sound effects and mixing and silence. Silence is also a sound. So we can identify these elements, but how do we discuss how they work together to communicate ideas and evoke emotions? That is through text, subtext, context. So we can apply this to any art form, from a soda can to performance art. And a good example of this is how we can provide text, subtext, and context to Andy Warhol's tomato soup can paintings. And then text refers to discussing how the individual elements work. What we just did. Think high school English. You're going over the plot of the book, you're looking at the characters of the book, and then subtext refers to the thematic meaning. So context refers to how art engages the outside world via history, social, political currents, and industry expectations. So if we're looking at historical, it's when the movie's made. Sociopolitical, it's going to be under what elements it's being made under, like the current political situation, what's going on in society. And then also industrial, can be the budget of the film, where it's filmed. And then let's go ahead and look at text. So thinking back to the movie, if you've seen it, 1993's Jurassic Park, the subtext is about Dr. Alan Grant learning to become a parent. So he's terrifying children in the desert with a fossil, and then he gets stuck with these annoying kids in a dinosaur park, and they're trapped, and he's trying to save them. So the context of this is the perils of corporate scientific exploration and invention on the individual in the form of a Hollywood blockbuster. So we can see here where it's towards the end of the movie where the raptors are getting into the building, and they also break into the computer room. And you've got the raptor here, which is, a corporate scientific creation with the DNA on it. So this really wraps up context pretty well in one scene. So with reading a film, we can see that film combines narrative and elements of cinematic style, and this combination comes together to create contextual meaning. Thank you so much.